Tonight on Denver 7 News at 6.
Those strains are more transmissible. They're more likely to be infectious to one another.
COVID is circulating like wildfire in Colorado schools. A vaccine is on the horizon, but it's unclear how many students will take it.
Nothing at this point will change my mind.
Coloradans are spending days, sometimes even weeks in jail before seeing a judge.
My first 4 days were horrific.
Some counties say they can't afford to expedite the process. Lawmakers say they can't afford not to.
Jeopardizes your employment prospects, which jeopardizes your health care, which jeopardizes your housing situation.
And the DA decides against prosecuting the protesters who barred the doors of a police precinct.
We were not thinking that this would, wind you up having to battle charges that carry decades in prison.
Good evening. Thanks for watching Denver 7. I'm Ann Trujillo.
And I'm Shannon Ogden. We're going to begin with two serious crashes causing serious backups. Now, one lane of 285 North just reopened in Morrison following a deadly crash that saw a semi separate on the highway, and the driver did not survive. No word on when that road will fully reopen.
Another crash has traffic tied up on US 6 between highways 119 and 58. And like the other, this one involves a semi. Jefferson County deputies have not yet said if anyone was hurt.
Well, children now account for more than a quarter of all new cases of coronavirus in Colorado. 30% of active outbreak sites in the state, elementary, middle, and high schools.
But wait, there is more. A new poll shows many parents are reluctant to get their children vaccinated once the time comes.
Denver 7's Ivan Rodriguez tonight on what's holding them back, what could change their minds, and what's behind the surge in cases at school.
Colorado state health officials say a quarter of new COVID-19 cases are among children between the ages of 0 and 19.
Well, it is concerning because we know that kids may be more likely to aggregate.
For Dr. Amy Ducro with Kaiser Permanente, it's important for parents to consider getting their children vaccinated when they become eligible.
A lot of times in kids, the infection may be not as severe. But if we're talking about then spread to people who are more vulnerable, we have to make sure that we're vaccinating everyone in our communities, and they're very much a part of that.
Among parents, the decision to vaccinate their kids is mixed.
I am in the group that is completely against vaccinating or injecting an experimental drug in my children.
I am so excited to get my daughter vaccinated.
According to a Kaiser Family Foundation report, less than a third of parents say they'd get their child the COVID vaccine right away. 32% say they'd wait to see how it works. The rest are against the vaccine altogether.
To me, with the science behind it and how well it's been tolerated in adults, I really feel that, to me, it's a scientific no-brainer for her.
But for Trina Watson, whose children have all their other vaccines and already had COVID, the risk doesn't equal the reward.
We don't know the effects. We don't know the harm. Children in this age group are still developing mentally and physically, and we just don't know enough.
By early next week, the FDA could extend its emergency use authorization for Pfizer's vaccine to ages 12 to 15. Dr. Ducro says while having questions is normal, it's important to get answers from health professionals.
The way that we will be able to stop the spread of the virus and the pandemic from continuing is to be able to be vaccinated.
Still, it will come down to each family's personal decision about their futures. Ivan Rodriguez, Denver 7.
As of tonight, more than 2 million Coloradans are fully inoculated against the virus. 2.6 million have received at least one dose. 4.7 million Coloradans are eligible to receive the vaccine.
Restaurant workers in Denver can lose their masks if 85% of staff have been immunized. Also, masks will no longer be required when there are 9 or fewer people in a room.
5 cases of a variant native to India have been reported in Mesa County. It is unclear how much the variant is to blame for the current catastrophic situation in India. A month ago, 300 deaths were being reported daily, and today, the official count was 3,900. Experts believe the real number to be much higher and blame the government for lifting restrictions early.
We didn't even ask the question of what we needed to do based on learnings from this last year in the event that we'd have a second wave. A second wave was never off the table. You just had to look around the world. You don't have to be a scientist to say that. We did nothing. Instead, we celebrated, a bit too prematurely, Indian exceptionalism.
Dr. SAKETH GUNTUPALLI has been watching this play out from Colorado. His parents are from India. He has cousins working as surgeons and physicians there, and there was no way he was going to sit on the sidelines. So he called up his colleagues at UC Health and asked if they would help him round up some supplies.
This was 4 days ago. And in 4 days we've raised thousands of dollars for help with transport, but we've also found gloves, face masks, face shields, alcohol swabs, just things that we had excess of or we weren't going to use that is like gold. This is like literally worth its weight in gold, because this is going to save people's lives the minute it hits the ground there.
Yeah, what a great effort. A GoFundMe has been set up to help with the cost of shipping, and you will find a link on thedenverchannel.com.
Charges have been dismissed against 5 protesters arrested last year in Aurora. The Adams County DA office originally charged them with crimes as serious as attempted first-degree kidnapping and engaging in a riot for tying the doors of the police station shut, but that was the old administration. The new DA took office in January, reviewed the case, and decided it should not move forward. Lillian House faced the longest sentence. We caught up with her today after news broke that she would not be spending 48 years in prison after all.
We also went to court in March, and there was, over 9 hours of testimony. The prosecution brought their evidence. This was for the preliminary hearing on this kidnapping charge, and the judge ruled that the officers inside the building were not prevented from leaving. They self-sequestered, was his wording. They self-sequestered at the order of their commanding officers. They were told to stay inside. They weren't trapped. That was the judge's ruling.
House and the others were protesting the death of Elijah McClain. She said today she intends to continue to fight for justice.
Barry Morphew appeared before a judge today on accusations he murdered his wife, Suzanne. Little came of the hearing itself. Morphew was read his rights and was told he can continue to have contact with his daughters. He will be back in court again later on this month.
A man is dead and another's in the hospital tonight following a stabbing in Arvada. It happened overnight at a home on Flower Street. 35-year-old Shane Youngblood was dead by the time Jeffco deputies arrived. Another man survived but was badly hurt. A third person was arrested on suspicion of second-degree murder.
Colorado lawmakers believe bond should be set within 48 hours of a person's arrest.
Counties say it will cost them tens of thousands of dollars to implement this. But as Denver7's Megan Lopez explains, the current system comes at a cost as well.
I was driving to my niece's volleyball game in Grand Junction.
It's a story told through testimony.
I got pulled over for speeding just outside of Grand Junction. I was subsequently arrested.
A story told through tears.
I was physically assaulted and emotionally traumatized by another inmate.
A story about a woman who spent
15 days, 6 hours, and 23 minutes
in jail before having her bond set on a warrant that was later dismissed altogether. A story the American Civil Liberties Union says is not a one-off.
On day 8, I was finally able to see a judge, and after a few hours, I was released on a PR bond. 8 days is a long time in jail.
So Colorado lawmakers are debating a bill that would require counties to hold bond hearings within 48 hours of someone being arrested.
All are innocent until proven guilty.
For the bill's co-sponsors and supporters,
this bill is all about due process. Right now, Colorado is still a state where, unfortunately, if you find yourself arrested on a Friday afternoon, you might not see a judge or a bond hearing officer until Monday or Tuesday.
Currently, only 3 counties offer weekend hearings: Denver, Jefferson, and Weld. Representative Stephen Woodrow says keeping someone in jail
jeopardizes your employment prospects, which jeopardizes your health care, which jeopardizes your housing situation.
Meanwhile, the ACLU believes the COVID pandemic has proven how to leverage technology.
We can do things by video, and I think more courts and maybe more sheriffs are equipped to set something up.
Others worry about the bill's financial impact on smaller counties.
We traditionally do not hold weekend court.
Christian Champagne is the district attorney for La Plata, Archuleta, and San Juan counties.
We estimate that our costs will be around $25,000 to $30,000 a year for weekend court, just in the DA's office alone.
The bill calls for the creation of a statewide bond officer to hold remote hearings to help smaller counties. Champagne worries that will mean a loss of personal connection.
Missing that chance to speak directly to the judge is a real loss, in our opinion.
And internet connection.
Ms. Gorman, can you hear us in the room?
Using Wednesday's hearing on the bill and the tech troubles it faced
Committee, I'm being advised that we're going to need to do some kind of system reboot here.
as an example of technology's limits.
When we're talking about something that's really important, like a bond setting, that really endangers the process.
So while he likes the policy, he thinks the bill needs more work.
That's time I can't get back.
House Bill 1280 promises quicker bond hearings if it can get through the due process of the state legislature first. Megan Lopez, Denver 7.
Denver Mayor Michael Hancock and Congresswoman Diana DeGette are trying to convince the feds to give them money to house the homeless. The pair is requesting $2 million to buy the Stay Inn Hotel on East 38th. 94 of its 95 rooms would be used for housing. The 95th room would become a space for mental and behavioral services.
Cities across the country are looking at some of these unused properties and saying this is the perfect way for us to get people off the streets, out of the Civic Center Park and into a place that's more humane for them, that helps them get their lives on track for permanent housing, and is also better for all of the citizens who are in that area of the city. So I think it's a win-win-win.
And the plan is to use the inn as a shelter for 2 years and then convert it into supportive housing. All that stands in the way, I should say, is approval from the House Appropriations Committee.
The First Lady Jill Biden received a very warm welcome upon arriving in Colorado Springs today. Senators John Hickenlooper and Michael Bennet, Congressman Doug Lamborn, Lieutenant Governor Diane Primavera, and Mayor John Suthers all bumped elbows or fists with Dr. Biden. The First Lady then visited Fort Carson to mark Military Spouse Appreciation Day.
It's been a warm one today, even warmer tomorrow, but there's rain and snow in the 7-day.
And the Brewers making Boulder a six-pack all the richer when we come back.
When I got the phone call, it was like, yeah, absolutely, we're in. What do you need from me?
It's about $13 million of economic impact.
The upcoming event expected to see 20,000 visitors.
A lot of safety precautions in place.
How the Colorado Convention Center is opening up for bigger events, and is it safe for you to go? Tomorrow morning, watch Denver 7.